Jim sent me an email recently saying that he's invested in one of these Viqua IHS12-D4 Minirack ultraviolet disinfection systems to make sure the lake water at his cottage is bacteria-free for his family. Now, because his cottage is in a very remote location, he can't schedule an installation with a plumber because he's only there on the weekends, not to mention the cost. So Jim's a do-it-yourself kind of guy, and he's very handy, and he wants to install it himself. But he needs to know, where does it get installed? Is it installed before or after his existing water filtration equipment? How does he cut the pipe? Where does he install it? Oh, and by the way, although Jim's very handy, he doesn't know how to solder. So can it be installed with can you do a solder-free installation on this great product? Absolutely. I'm going to show you and Jim how, starting right now. Hi, I'm Gary the Water Guy, and I simplify water filtration to help you conquer crappy water for your family. So this video is for any rural home, cottage, or cabin owner like Jim that wants to do their own installation, a solder-free installation on an ultraviolet disinfection system like this Viqua Minirack system. And by the way, all of the information that I'm presenting here today also applies to the Viqua IHS10-D4, IHS22-D4, and the IHS22-E4. It's all the same installation. Now, if you're not 100% sure on how these ultraviolet disinfection systems work to kill the bacteria in your water, I've got a great YouTube video that explains the whole thing. I'll put a link in the description down below. Now be sure you keep in mind the pre-treatment requirements of your water to make sure it's compatible with an ultraviolet disinfection system. Like, you need to have an iron content of 0.3 parts per million or less, hardness of 7 grains per gallon or less. You have to have ultraviolet transmittance. In other words, the water has to be fairly clear, at least so that at least 75% of the ultraviolet light can pass through. So that's called UVT. The UVT needs to be 75% or higher. The manganese content needs to be 0.05 parts per million or less, and tannins 0.1 parts per million or less. So this Viqua ultraviolet disinfection system gets installed after your other water filtration equipment. So if you're on well water, then it would go after your iron filter, after your water softener, and after your tannin filter if you have one, to make sure that it's cleaned up all the water and make sure that it's scale free before it gets into here. And again, if you're on a lake water like Jim is, then you want to make sure you put it after your coarse sediment filter, after your automatic backwashing filter. And again, if you've got tannins, it would go after your tannin filter. So you need to find a place that's protected from the weather, and you need to find a place that it's not going to freeze in the wintertime. Or of course, you can drain this in the wintertime if it's a 3 seasons cottage or cabin. And you'll need a standard 110 volt electrical outlet to plug it in. All right, so then you need to find a suitable mounting location, so trace your plumbing, and before the water splits into hot and cold, that's where this system's going to be installed. So it comes totally assembled the way you see it right here on this black metal bracket. That makes it really easy to install. So if you've got a plywood wall, you can just use lag bolts and attach it to that wall. But more than likely, you've just got some studs there. So what you can do is take a piece of 2x4 that's cut to the right length, make sure you catch 2 studs, nail this to the 2x4 or use screws, and then mount this whole system onto that 2x4. So you're going to want to make sure that you've got a bucket and some towels available to mop up any water that gets spilled, because there will be some water getting spilled here. All right, so then what you're going to do is you're going to shut off the water flow going to this system. So you might have a ball valve shut off like this, and you would just turn it 90 degrees to shut it off. If you've got a gate valve, you know, like with a round handle on it, just turn that to shut off the water. Then go somewhere in the house, nearby, laundry sink, something like that, open up the faucet, let the water flow until it slows right down to a trickle. That releases all the pressure. Then you can go and cut that pipe. Now, whether your existing plumbing is copper or a plastic PEX pipe makes no difference. This is going to be a totally solder-free installation. So you're going to use a few things to help you with that. So this is what's called a heater hose. It's used to connect up to your hot water tank. And as you can see on one end, it's got a shark bite type quick connect fitting. And again, that can be used for converting over from your plastic pipe, PEX, or from your copper. So I've got a great YouTube video that talks a little bit more about using PEX pipe. I'll put a link in the description down below. And then from there, you can go to a shut-off valve because you're going to want to be able to isolate this to shut off the water before the UV system. Now, if you've already got an existing shut-off valve nearby, you can still maintain that if you like. And then from there, you're going to go to a nipple, a small piece of pipe that's threaded, and you're going to join that into the ultraviolet disinfection system. Now, on all of your threaded fittings, you want to make sure that you make a watertight seal. And to do that, you're going to use two different methods of sealing that. So the first is you're going to use Teflon tape. So I prefer to use the white Teflon tape in this instance. And then you put the Teflon tape onto the pipe. You hold it with your thumb, the Teflon tape onto the pipe, and then you go around the pipe. So, going to want to go around 4 times. Try not to get any folds in it. Like that. And then once you've gone around 4 times, you can snap it off. And then you're going to use a sealant, like this sealant here. Take that sealant and put it all the way around. Like that. And then you're going to thread the piece onto it. I can show you with this one here. You're going to thread it in there. So you can see what's happened here. You thread it in there, and then you just make sure it's as tight as you can get it. And then you're going to take this end, and you're going to do the same with the Teflon tape and the pipe sealant, or dope it's called. And then you thread that whole thing into the side of the ultraviolet disinfection system. And that's going to be the line in. So why I'm recommending this heater hose with the shark bite fitting on the end is that it's quite flexible. So because of that, if things don't line up quite right, no big deal. This will just compensate for it. So on the outlet side of the UV system, there's a 3/4 inch male fitting. So the first thing you're going to attach to that is a ball valve like this for a shut-off. And the reason you're going to put that in that spot is because, as you probably already noticed, when you cut the pipe, all the water in the whole house drained back out through. So you want to make sure when you're changing filters in the future that that doesn't happen. It'll make for a much easier maintenance on the system going forward. And right after that, you're going to put 16 inches of copper pipe. So why copper pipe? Why not go directly to Pecs if your house is already in Pecs? Well, you have to realize that ultraviolet light isn't compatible with Pecs pipe. In other words, the light shining on the Pecs pipe will eventually deteriorate it. Now, by putting 16 inches of copper before switching over to Pecs, that means that the light wouldn't be strong enough after it's shone those 16 inches to affect the Pecs at all. So then you just put, if you've got, after the 16 inches of copper, if you've got Pecs, you just put another shark bite type fitting or quick connect type fitting on there, convert over from the copper to your Pecs, and then it goes on through to your whole house. And then the controller goes onto the bracket at the front. So you just slide that down. All right, great. And then the electrical cord gets plugged into the side of the controller. But don't plug it into your GFCI at this point yet. And by the way, if you're thinking about investing in one of these great Viqua IHS12-D4 Ultraviolet Disinfection Systems for your family, you can go to our websites, either waterestore.com in the US or waterestore.ca in Canada. We offer free shipping and discount pricing. Whenever working with the lamp or the sleeve, make sure you only handle them with clean rubber gloves or a clean cloth. So next we grab the quart sleeve and the O-ring, and we place the O-ring onto the end of the quart sleeve. Slide it down a little bit, I don't know, about 3/4 of an inch or so, and then place it directly into the top of the UV. And you want to make sure that it's centered within the UV, and you'll see that there's a spring at the bottom that's catching that. And then you grab the gray collar, you slide that over it, and screw it in until it stops. So this only needs to be hand tight, no more than that. Next, you grab the UV lamp, again using your gloves, feed that in. Now you'll notice this only screws in a part way and then it just stops. It's a hard stop. Then the end of your controller, you can see that there's two plugs, this one and this one. So this one goes to the lamp and this one goes to the jumper over here, which you can roll around. Place that over top, line it up with the pins on the lamp and the jumper. Slide that down until you hear it snap into place. Just make sure the connector is engaged on both sides. Next, you'll see two wires up here for the ground. So you pull off the two coverings, and people always ask me, why are there two here? Well, because one is actually strain relief and the other is actually the ground. So you put them so that the hole is over, both of them is in the center, and then you unscrew the nut on the ground on the top of the UV lamp, and you attach that to it, and then tighten up the nut again. Then you plug it in. Now you need to make sure you plug it into a circuit that's protected with a ground fault circuit interrupter. And I definitely suggest you plug it into a surge suppressor. That way you'll protect the controller from all those power fluctuations. So these systems already come with the filters pre-installed, but using the wrench that comes with the system, I would just make sure that you give it a slight tug just to make sure that it's tight. Again, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. With the outlet valve closed, you're going to open up the inlet valve halfway. That way the system will slowly fill up with water and you can check it for leaks. If there's no leaks, you can open it up all the way. And once you're sure there aren't any leaks, then you could open up the outlet valve. Again, open it slowly to feed water to the whole house. Go to a faucet somewhere that has a good flow, like a bathtub or a laundry sink. Open that up and you can release the air. You'll get some spitting and some spurting and that kind of thing. But once you get a steady stream, then you're good to go. So next, all of you, including you, Jim, are going to disinfect all the plumbing in your home, cottage, or cabin. Now, wait a second. I thought that's what this thing's job was to disinfect the water. Well, absolutely it is. And as the water flows through here, it's going to disinfect it. But any water that's downstream of this ultraviolet disinfection system in your cottage already has bacteria in it or could have bacteria in it, and that would reinfect the water after it's gone through the UV system. So I've got a great YouTube video that shows you the whole process. I'll put a link in the description down below. After a year of use, the green LED that indicates that the lamp is working is going to go from green to yellow and then to red to tell you that it's time to change that lamp and those filters. Click up here for my next video on how to do that whole process, and I'll see you there.